Hello everyone, welcome to Telegraph Beauty School Series 2. This is all about serums. I'm Sonia Harrier, I'm the Beauty Director of the Telegraph, and joining me today is Fatma Shaheen, the founder of amazing skincare brand Skin Design London, and also a master aesthetician. Her treatments are incredible, but we'll talk about those later. So over the next hour, we will be talking all about serums and which ones to use for your particular skincare concerns, how to layer them, and essentially any questions. Hi, Fatma.
Hello,
thank
Sonia.
you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and so excited and so happy to be here. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Serums is a big topic.
It's a big world.
It's a big world because, I mean, for, I've been writing about beauty for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Even back then, it was very new, the kind of world of serums, It was still a bit of an overhang from the whole kind of cleanse, tone, moisturise, and, that's your skincare routine. That's your building blocks of your skincare routine. But then all of a sudden, in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, it's like, oh no, serums are, you need to kind of work in serums into your skincare routine somewhere because, that's where you get the real actives and the real kind of change of kind of like changing your face essentially, and improving your skin. On a very sort of basic level, what is a serum?
I think what you've just sort of said is pretty much where cleansing and toning, I think the sort of the brands of the past or routines of the past were so focused on them. And my journey into skincare, without going into that, really started with serums. So it's just so, I think the way you've just said that, and I just thought about it, I think, yeah, that's exactly when I thought about sort of what skin needs and what does skin actually need, and it needs a serum. And my experience with that was originally so focused on cleansing and even creams, because they're so like, yes, that's exactly what I need, the feel of them, the touch of them. And in treatment, sort of, having a clinic and treating skin, what I sort of, especially treating pigmentation and acne, creams weren't treating them, and cleansing, toning, they have its, sort of place. But what was really treating skin and what you really needed for good skin was serums. So serums are what I call the foundation of every good skin. I won't even say skincare routine because that can be, mean a whole host of things. But the first thing that comes to mind is about serum is good skin.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. And to me, that's what serums are. They generally are more fine in texture, and we'll probably go into that in a little bit more detail to separate them from creams or sort of any other product. And they need to be finer in texture because that's what delivers the results, and that's how you get good skin. So to me, serums are, definitely good skin.
And you must see in lots of your, with a lot of your clients, because Fatma is a great, your treatments are incredible.
Thank you.
I've been
Thank
seeing
you.
Fatma myself.
You look amazing.
It's all down to your treatments.
Thank you.
But it's essentially very geared towards, obviously, treatments on one hand, but kind of super serving the skin with serums.
Yeah.
And with your own range here with Skin Design London, it's very much a brand focused around serums.
It is, yeah.
And do you feel like there's actually a real, it must be quite overwhelming for a lot of your clients when they're sort of suddenly braced with, hyaluronic acids and vitamin C's and retinols and stuff. On a very sort of, rounded level, what do the kind of key ingredients really do for the skin?
Yeah. And just going sort of, we're sort of showcasing ours. And again, Skin Design London is a brand that, the foundation of skin is our serums. It starts from there. And it starts from what skin actually needs, the essentials.
Right.
And one of the key essentials, which was one of our very first launches, which I felt, if you came to me and said, what one product does my skin, what do I start with? What does it need? And I would just put everyone on the vitamin C. So that's like your first key ingredient, your entry point into skincare. I almost say forget everything else. That's where it starts. And again, it's so confusing because there's so many vitamin C's. Like when I speak to my clients, they say, oh, you know, I do have a vitamin C, but I always say not all serums are the same. And they're quite confusing. There's so many different vitamin C's on the market. And for me, you know, I, as you know, always preach to you about texture tone. And the serums are the scaffolding to that. They're the scaffolding to the skin. They hold everything. They start the work. They start the treatment process. And my, you know, when I see any skin type, be it skin types 1 to 6, you know, male, female, etc., I start with a vitamin C. And our vitamin C is designed so it's not just treating pigmentation. It's there to hydrate. It's really there to sort of start energizing and resurface, sort of smoothing the skin. And the vitamin C is the perfect start to that. Not only is it protecting your skin, it's protecting against any environmental elements, the harsh elements, etc. And that's so important. And you know, I know you're a big fan. It just instantly brightens the skin, and that's what a good vitamin C should be doing. A quality vitamin C. So that's where, you know, that's the first ingredient in a serum that I would be looking for.
And is that kind of across the board? So, regardless of age, of skin tone, male, female, essentially, if you're looking to purchase a serum or begin kind of building a bit of a serum routine, it's a vitamin C.
Yes.
That's your basis.
Anyone. So,
Anyone.
You know, whether you're 16 or whatever age, I'd say start well.
Yeah.
Start with a good serum, because that will almost, I mean, I can speak for ours. Our one is geared around really helping acneic skin, problem skin as well. So not only it's just a vitamin C, it's so much more than that. And that's what a good serum should do. It should really look at inflammation. It should really target the skin in every level. Because once you do that, you're pretty much covered in like, oh, it's not just about acne, it's not just about rosacea, it's not about dryness. And so a good solid, we're sort of saying a vitamin C, but a good C starter, shall I say, let's put it there, because there's so many things that you can put under vitamin C, should help with that. So for, let's say, teenagers, you know, scarring, acneic skin, it should soothe, it should reduce that inflammation. And that's the most important thing, as well as, you know, as you and I always discuss, the rise in pigmentation.
Yeah.
Post, you know, if you've got acne and then all the scarring that gets left behind, the melasma, which, you know, we'll talk about, no doubt, huge. And it's still a very unresolved skincare issue. Yeah. You know, so many people, so many doctors, so many brands try and tackle it, but it's a big one. But yeah, so all ranges, I would put you on that. I always say invest wisely, and the first product should be a good vitamin C. I'd rather you go cheaper on the cleansers, but make sure the investment's there for a good C product.
And would that be your kind of, it's interesting because every dermatologist I speak to, you know, vitamin C is that, you know, one of those key building blocks really of a good kind of skincare routine. And is it also beneficial for, you know, more mature complexions to kind of, you know, really sort of help to, you know, protect it, but also help with any signs of aging as well.
And that's my point regarding a good C. Like when someone says to me, oh, I have a vitamin C, and I always say, no, you've a good sort of C, we'll call it C, sort of vitamin C. I think everyone thinks it's just some sort of oranges in there or something, you know. And it's so important that it's anti-aging, because that's what I'm doing. You know, whether you come to me at 16, 18, 30, 50, the anti-aging or the sort of, you know, treating fine lines or etc., it's a tick. It's preventative, it's protective. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at. And you should really, one type of vitamin C should be suitable for everybody. I think, you know, if it's done well, it should, you know, you don't need so many different types, so many different percentages. As you know, when you say percentage, I say it's irrelevant. Because I feel it's irrelevant, and I think when you try the products, and you know, if you've got a good vitamin C, it should pretty much tick all the boxes. It shouldn't irritate. It should definitely hydrate.
Right.
As you know, that's one of my biggest things, hydration without clogging the pores, texture, improving texture without overstripping the skin.
Yeah.
And that's what a good vitamin C product should do. It should tick all those boxes and not just be, oh, it's just a little bit of protection as well. And I think there's a lot of confusion, like they say, oh, can I use it? Is it safe? Is it, etc. But, you know, you definitely have to. I say it's your 365 days a year, as you know, as I preach to you. Use it every day, and it goes with you everywhere as well.
Yeah.
Cold, winter, and you know, you should just protect your skin and really look after it.
Yeah.
And even I find that, like with sunblocks, you know, I'm not sort of preaching going out there, but you know, when we're out there in the sun, it works even better if you've got a good quality vitamin C. It is, you know, it supports the SPF that you're using. They'll work together. And it'll add another sort of extra protection to your skin and just give you that beautiful texture, hydrate, smoothness, as you know. And, you know, and you'll see, I mean, you know, when you start using a good vitamin C, you see such a difference in the quality of your skin. And that's, I think that's, as you know, it's such a big thing for me.
And vitamin C should be used every morning?
Yes, every morning.
Just in the morning?
Just in the morning. At night, I think we have other products that I feel are much more focused around what I want your skin to, how I want your skin to be treated.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you did drop a bit of vitamin C at night, it's not the end of the world. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But ideally in the morning, because at nighttime we're switching the mode up a little bit in terms of what we want your skin to experience while you're sleeping, what we want it to do. So in the morning is absolutely fine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly, you know, can speak for the brightening, or you know, the brightening, immediate brightening effect
Immediately.
also that you get
and
from
hydration.
vitamin C.
I think that's one of the good things about, you know, a good vitamin C. That hydration is so key.
So it should be applied straight onto clean skin.
Clean,
so once you've
cleansed,
dry skin, yeah.
You clean, a couple of 2 to 3 drops. Always take, as I think we were going through this, because we quickly put products on and it's always like this.
Yeah.
But take time. There's a lot of pigmentation and melasma developing here.
Yes.
I'm seeing so many people, and even just hitting this sort of just above your lip. If you've got bits of pigmentation developing, even sort of spreading onto your lips, just target, you know, just really apply. Take time from here to here.
Right.
You know, and get into those sort of, even those sort of fine lines that are developing between the chest area as well. I think that's so important. Such a neglected area.
Yeah. I mean, that's
so difficult to treat. So I always
it?
say, you know, in terms of if you leave it, you know, I've got so many clients, 40s, 50s, are like, oh, you know, please, my chest needs treatment. But if you start young, you know, and you're applying it all over, all products should be applied all over. And you'll see such a huge, big difference in, because we pick up a lot of pigmentation here as well, don't we? We tend to expose that bit to the sun. Sometimes we protect our face, but then neglect our neck and chest, which, you know, in our 40s and 50s, suddenly it's like, oh, please help.
Yeah.
That was the #1 requested treatment after lockdown, neck and chest treatments.
Really? That's
so, yeah, I think it's all the Zoom calls and looking down on phones and everyone just overly looking at themselves, having time to do that. So I think sort of when we opened clinic back in April, it was my sagging jawline and neck and texture.
Yeah.
So
That's so interesting, because even with sun protection, you don't tend to...
No.
Always kind of, you know, carry it down. It's sort of, you know, you sort of think of skincare and you sort of, it ends here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's really interesting about the
so
increase of melasma.
I'm seeing such an increase in melasma. And I mean, this is sort of a bigger area for pigmentation. And so many clients, we can just see sort of, I always say, just really take time. It doesn't take long to apply the products there. And not just sort of splash it on quickly, done. But as you know, as you and I have discussed, I think post-lockdown and everything, everyone wants to know how to look after their skin. They want to know what products work. It was the #1, you know, throughout the sort of lockdown, that all the consultations were help. I'm using probably, every note that I read pre a call that I took, or it was like, well, I'm using a list of all the serums, help. My skin's still not doing what it needs to be doing. It's dry, it's dull, it's pigmented. And breakouts, acne was a big, stress, obviously, and so and that was really interesting because I felt like we'd come, in the world of Google and so many things going on, people were much more knowledgeable, but no, and it was just breaking that down and really paring back routines and almost saying stop everything, start from a vitamin C, let's get you started on that and slowly build and layer the others in and start treating the skin in a healthy, in a structured serum plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about your kind of aesthetic is it's not a case of having 10 different products that you need to be using every morning and night, and no one's got time to have a 12-step skincare routine, but it's essentially, what do I really need?
And just sort of going back on that, it was almost like, well, I say, well, I've got this from this brand, like let's say I've got this product and I've got that product, and before you know it's like 10 different types and I use it for this, but there was no sort of thought, okay, why do I actually need that? What is it doing for my skin? And what I do, as you know, I almost say, well, stop everything. We're going to start with this. We're going to start with texture. We're going to start with tone. We're going to start with protection. And that starts in the morning, and really sort of getting everyone disciplined and sort of in a good routine to say, okay, this is where I come in. Almost forget the cleanser. Yes, you can use your current cleanser. Use the C or a vitamin C. And then we're going to build the others. And it's almost like some were saying, oh, but what about the other 50-step routine? I said, no, we're going to not do that for a couple of weeks. You're going to just survive them on a minimum serum program. We're detoxing your serums and your addiction to this over sort of filling yours. Because then, it's amazing. Like a lot of people say, oh, I don't like too many things. And then you start breaking their routine down. And it's like, they have like 20 types of serums for different things and they're not even using it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's almost, and we were just sort of paring that back and just starting. And that is solid, it goes a long way. It will. And when you start seeing that glow, let's just summarize the texture, tone, pigmentation. What is it ultimately that we want? We want that glow. We want that vibrancy, the texture to improve. Because once you start doing that, and it's another thing, sort of a lot of people now are moving away from, let's say, fillers and, doing sort of injectables and things like that. Yeah. And I always say once the texture of skin is sort of improved, the tone, the look of it, you won't reach for that, what I call that emergent, like we feel a bit like, okay, I really want to do something. Well, what shall I do? Let me feel my skin or let me inject. Yeah. Not that there's a sort of anything, but I always say, let's work on tone and texture. And that starts with serums. And the first one is the C. Yeah. Whether you want to pick this one up or this one, I almost say no, we start with this one. Yeah. And there's a reason behind that, because once we start improving the texture, getting the health of your skin to a level where it's sort of functioning well, improving any of those inflammations, you're going to feel confident. Your skin's going to look confident. You are going to feel confident. And then we start adding the others into a treatment plan as well. And that's my journey. That's how I started. It's almost standing in front of masses of vitamin Cs and thinking, well, why doesn't this do what it does? Yeah. Or why is that irritating? Or why doesn't this work this way? Yeah. And it was almost like to say, let me pare this down. Yeah. How can I create a vitamin C that someone with acne can use? Someone with rosacea, with pigmentation, that actually is hydrating. I remember the days of, formulations have got, really good. Yeah. They weren't. They almost felt like they just dried your skin out. I don't know whether you remember, like 8-9 years ago, what vitamin Cs were like. And everyone was obsessed with very irritating. I used to have so many people say, I won't touch that because I'll break out. And I was like, well, I can't really treat some of the conditions you want me to treat. So that's where I sort of started to sort of think, hang on, there must be a better way to do this. Why can't we actually create a vitamin C that doesn't irritate, that hydrates, but then is treating pigmentation and sun damage and texture of skin? And
just on the topic of hydration, because we've had a few questions about kind of, skin that's perhaps dehydrated or dry, or, I mean, especially as we move into the winter now. Hyaluronic acid comes
Yeah.
up time and time again as an ingredient that's kind of super hydrating.
Mm-hmm.
It you know, helps to kind of bring moisture into the skin. Would you sort of recommend, if someone perhaps has you know, skin that's slightly more dry, dehydrated, that they have a standalone hyaluronic acid or a hydrating serum in their routine?
Definitely. And for me, the hydration process sort of, I always sort of stand these out like this, because these would be your almost starters. And this one is our sort of, I call it a hydrating serum, but then it ticks a lot of things. Again, just like, as you know, with all of our sort of serums. I think a standalone, just a hyaluronic acid, as you know, doesn't penetrate well enough. It really depends on the formulation. I tend to sort of prefer a lower molecular hyaluronic acid in there. But to me,
Right.
I like more than that. Just a hyaluronic acid, as you know. Yes, it works. Yes, it helps. But I use Cactus Juice, which I absolutely love, in hydrating the skin. You know, some acne is caused by dehydration. So many skin issues, and especially in sort of different climates, you know, be it summer, and now we're sort of going into winter, we up that even more.
Yeah.
You know, I love rose, so everything has a hint of rose. And that's nice for its anti-inflammatory purposes.
Yeah.
So again, it's a hyaluronic acid, it's a lower molecular formula. I highly recommend that as part of your sort of hydrating,
Yeah.
plumping the skin, just giving it that sort of assisting the vitamin C, working it
So would
together.
you layer that over a vitamin C? So it, you know, if you wanted to kind of go for that, if you perhaps wanted to, you know, ramp up your serum routine a little bit, it would be a vitamin C plus like some kind of hydrating hyaluronic
Definitely.
acid product.
Yes, I would do the vitamin C, and then my next one would be a hydrating
Yeah.
serum or hyaluronic acid based product. It's so important, because then it's sort of, then we start working on, you know, for me, you know, how I do that, I almost look at it as sort of really, you know, helping with fine lines. It's not just hydrating. There's so much that you can do with sort of ingredients like that, and for sort of good formulations as well.
Yeah.
So important, and that's almost like your next in line,
Right.
in what your skin needs and what serum and how it works.
Yeah.
And I keep referring to, as you know, Sonia, because I know you're a big fan of the treatment. I just think you just know.
Yeah, I know.
Is that we use it quite a lot in sort of that micro needling stage, because you see that
into the
vibrancy in
skin.
skin, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to feed that Cactus Juice into your skin and intensify the hydration.
Yeah. And do you find then, if you've got, if you kind of tick the hydration within your serum routine, that you perhaps then don't need to use so much day cream in the morning?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a real, you know, quite traditional face creams are usually quite thick and you know, rich, especially, you know, the kind of real classics. Would you still recommend using a sort of rich day cream, you know, on top of, you know, using maybe one or two serums as well?
It really depends on what your skin needs and what it's going through.
Right.
Generally, I like, you know, as you know, I like the sort of thicker. I think we just like the look of thick creams.
We love.
There's an excitement to the process.
There's a real excitement, absolutely.
The serums always seem nice, and then you get to the cream, and go, do I need a cream? But as you know, I won't even put you on a cream initially. It's almost
Yeah.
like we build that in, and unless I think, you know, there's
Yeah.
an urgent need. I would keep the texture light.
Kind of across the board, even for kind of more mature complexions?
More mature, it depends what sort of the skin is going through. But again, just steer on the lighter. It depends on the serums. It depends on the quality of the serums. Some serums, your skin just drink, you know, will just sort of, and you think, all right, I really need to layer
need
that.
something,
Or
yeah.
sometimes the skin's barrier needs that extra protection. So we go a little bit thicker on the creams.
Right.
And again, it sort of depends. But, you know, right now, we're adding sort of the creams back in. We're switching them around. I tend to change them around in terms of, you know, what your skin needs and what it needs to be fed.
Yeah.
And creams just sit on top of the skin. it's almost the finisher. They're the protective, just protect that top layer.
Yeah.
Whereas with the serums, we're working it into the skin, we're treating the skin, and that's just sort of a final finish at the top. And I like to use a retinol cream. I use it at night, the retexturizing, but then I use a retinol cream with a hyaluronic acid in it, just to sort of keep treating my skin. I'm much older, so I need double the power.
Well, you're...
So I need the double the strength, double the power. But yes,
retinol's a big issue. We'll come to retinol because we've had some.
We probably need an hour on retinol.
I mean, retinol we can talk about for a long time.
Yes.
But so that's your kind of your day routine. Is there anything else that you would potentially, or any other ingredients that you'd work into the morning outside of like a vitamin C plus a hydrating hyaluronic?
I mean, there's two. I mean, one of my personal favorites is sort of a more tightening serum, as so face tight is a big one, and I like to layer it with a hyaluronic acid, because it sort of does two different things. One is more peptide infusion on your skin, so more tightening for the skin. It just sort of seals and it just complements each other.
Is that down to the peptides within
It's sort
the
of
serum?
the peptides. I like I can't speak for all hyaluronic acid and all serums. I'm sort of only sort of speaking in terms of this particular one. And it's not too heavy. And then I like to layer sort of a final serum. And when I do that, I find that I don't need as much cream. I prefer the more active sort of routines. It's, as you know, you get to a stage in your life, sort of, I think, it's like, okay, what works? And I'll finish off with the lighter cream. And volume serum is great, a volumizing serum. I use it for the eyes, so that's a nice one to sort of bring in. I prefer...
And are there any sort of particular ingredients within
it's more
voluming?
plumping, more plumping ingredients, Juvenity, so it sort of softens the lines, and it's quite fine in texture, but it's almost, if we sort of go through...
Yeah, I'd love to actually show, let's show some, because actually what was quite surprising with vitamin C textures is that vitamin C tends to be very sort of runny and light. And is that, a lot of these serums are light because, and across the board serums tend to be quite light because they kind of absorb in quickly.
And they should be light.
Yeah. I'm going to just use a little bit of the vitamin C here.
Yeah, and it's almost, if you see that sort of hydration, some of them are so watery, aren't they?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've, I've tried my sort of fair share. I'm just trying to scoop this one out. This is a bit...
Yeah, I mean, so, vitamin C's got a real distinctive texture, I think. That's ultimately, that's very watery almost, isn't it?
And it's quite hydrating, so
super hydrating.
I'm just sort of looking at your...
And it's kind of, I've instantly got a bit of a glow to the skin.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of a vitamin C,
and that's what you want. Some serums that I remember when I used to use them, because my initial struggle, I never thought I always thought, you don't need serums, creams. I mean, when I first started the whole sort of getting really sort of into, before skincare was actually such a sort of big thing in my routine. And I used to think, why do we need these serums? And it's only when it started to sort of really help with sun damage, pigmentation, and I was like, okay, we need it to actually treat skin. And as you know, sort of just working with doctors and, treating skin, that's when you sort of thought, you actually need it. And it's so important that it sort of doesn't just
want to
sit
show
on top
everyone
of,
that.
I know,
Yeah, that's amazing. So this is essentially hyaluronic acid, obviously mixed with, it's a formula, but in terms of a hydrating hyaluronic acid, it is almost a sort of gel texture, isn't it?
Slightly gelish, but it'll just go into your skin. So it does feel thicker, and it's not as watery as most brands. That's what I say, sort of most hyaluronic acid as well. So it does hydrate. I mean, I love it before makeup and just prep. So the way you've just layered those, and it's just, I can just see your sort of hands and the way it's just sort of blending in beautifully.
That's a real kind of instant.
And you don't need a lot. And that's the thing with layering as well, is I think a lot of people go, isn't it too much? But no, if the quality's there, it's a couple of, 2 to 3 drops, depending on your face
and
how we're treating it. It will, and you just wait. I always say, wait a minute. That minute
between
passes.
the layers,
and then wait for it to sort of really get into the skin, and then you put the next one on. And then the sort of volume, we go around the eyes. So that would be, you know, your next. I always put C on. I don't put eye cream first or any product.
Oh, so a serum before eye
serum,
cream. Yeah.
I clean my skin, and the first thing that goes on is the vitamin C. Nothing else.
Do you bring serums up around the eyes?
I do. I always say initially with any sort of product or any sort of brand that you're using, wait.
Yeah.
See if your skin tolerates.
Yeah.
There's no reactions, because this area is a little bit more sensitive. So I always say wait, as you know, and once you give it sort of that 2 to 3 period, and skin is used to it, just start taking it up. I take vitamin C up. I think it's so much more healthier than using certain eye creams, and much more brightening. Yeah. The ingredients are there.
I use vitamin C.
It's there to brighten your skin,
eyes,
and then we're constantly searching for eye creams to remove. We'll say, okay, what's good for eye bags or you know, dark circles?
Just use your serum. Yeah.
And just use your serum. Just take it up and if it's not clogging and you're not getting a reaction, then that's perfect.
So let's move on to retinol, because that is a big issue, topic, and I know we've had quite a few questions around retinol, which is essentially a derivative of vitamin A, isn't it? So vitamin A essentially is the kind of umbrella of lots of different types of products. So there's retinol, like lots of different types. But essentially, in terms of a retinol or a vitamin A, what will it do for your skin?
It's a bit... the first thing for me when I think about retinol is, and I know I go on about texture, and I've just said that, that's the first thing. It's going to help turn your cells over. I say it's the cardio of the serum world.
I love that.
Or the formulation world. It gets it flowing, and that's what you want. For healthy skin, if you want new skin, and we'll go into, you know, some people say, oh, but will it thin my skin? Will it do this? Yeah, but if you want that glow, if you want that texture improved, if we're going to improve the sun damage, if we're going to improve your pigmentation, there is no other way. It's the best. It's the sort of a formula, an ingredient that's been tested for so long, and nothing beats it if it's done well.
Yeah.
It's got a bad name because of, I think, there's, you know, several factors. People have over-abused it. Formulations can be quite harsh, but it's become more sophisticated. There's more new ways of sort of really working it in the labs, in formulations. We use a slow encapsulated one. And as you know, the first two sort of products that, for me, that started my journey was a retinol that actually treated skin without irritation. And I've used retinol that's pure percentages. I've used tretinoin. I've used it all. I've damaged my skin. I've irritated it. I've developed all sorts of side effects. And I was like, well, hang on. Yeah. Surely we can do a good retinol, and there are ways. And that's how it started for me. It was the first retinol that we did was like 8-9 years ago, and we were probably one of the first brands to really put hyaluronic acid in there and other sort of actives and botanicals. I almost saw it like treating skin, you know, when we were treating skin, the doctors were, or we're using, let's say, more aggressive AHAs or pills or retinols. Yeah. And one of the things that we would straight away do is soothe the skin straight after, so it wasn't too irritated. And I just wanted to put that into formulation. So, and that's important. And the Retexturising Serum, yes, it does have retinol. It's got other actives in there to sort of help with the strength of it, to get that cell turned over. Without the cell turning over, it's going to appear sluggish. It's going to appear patchy, dull. And you need the newness. You need new skin. And when I say new skin, it's not this over dramatic as some sort of peeling. No, we don't want that. No. Consistency is key. Yeah. Consistency with good retinol is the success with a good vitamin C to good skin. And a good serum should have that.
And is there a certain sort of age bracket that you should start using a retinol? is there a, you know, should you be using it every, because retinol kind of, for argument's sake, should be a sort of nighttime product for most people. Is that, would you say that's kind of correct?
Yeah, it's correct, but it depends on what we're treating. If we're treating severe acne, if we're treating severe pigmentation, it's a day and night. It depends where you are, what we're doing, how you're protecting your skin. You know, if we're giving you a full-on treatment, and going back to age, you know, some people say, oh, you shouldn't use it if you're sort of young or 16. Well, you know, a dermatologist prescribes strong,
tretinoin.
Tretinoin and, gosh, I've forgotten the name, Roaccutane, for 16-year-olds. And that's heavy, but then we have this thing like, oh no, you can't give a 16, 17-year-old a bit of sort of some retinol. So no, if it's just, you know, if it's done well and you're guiding and they're being cared and treated by a professional, of course you can. It's you know, much safer and much skin friendly, and you're not traumatizing and overly damaging the skin, overly irritating if it's a good retinol. I can't sort of say that for all retinol. There are a lot out there that are so irritating that it puts you off. As you know, I have an experience where I developed sort of dermatitis. This was dry, flaky, this area became darker, and I just thought, no, I don't want that. I don't want those so-called X percentages on my skin. I just want a product that I can work with my skin every day, looks after it, gets those cells turned over, is healthy, and it's suitable for every skin type.
So would a retinol work for lots of different concerns? So, you know, from fine lines and wrinkles, as well as age spots, sunspots, pigmentation. Is it a good sort of all-rounder for any concern?
It ticks everything. It's your desert island product. I know it's sunny there, but take the SPF and the vitamin C.
Vitamin C, retinol and an SPF.
So yeah, if there's one, it's really hard. The C and the R, would they be your two? I'd save both of them.
Yeah.
And they'll be on my raft. And they're key. They're, you know, it's fundamental. You know, we talk about sort of skincare and so many like, oh, does it actually work? No, it does. It does. And that would be the one product that would be in my cabinet. And it really does make a huge difference. You put it on at night and the morning, any decent one. I mean, I sort of think, okay, you know, if I haven't used it for a sort of few weeks and I suddenly am back on it, you see a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I believe you should, every day, a couple of drops, it should be in there. It's an essential vitamin. And under that, like we talk about vitamin A, it's a bit like vitamin C. We talk about vitamin C, but there's so much under that, and different categories and different formulations. And that's the same for vitamin A. You know, there's so many different types of sort of formulations and ingredients, and how you can sort of get it right in a serum and make sure that it's looking after the health of your skin. And as you know, I say new skin because that's exactly what you're after. You know, you need those cells turned over, and it's, you know, such a, one of the most, you know, healthiest and best way to get that new skin, that glow, and smooth out any uneven texture.
So there's still
good for acne.
Yeah, a retinol still has that kind of, it should still have that slight serum feel to it. As you know, there's sort of, I have sort of two versions, but this one is much more powerful, and you should start with a serum version. Oh right,
I
start
would
with a serum
do that.
version of your retinol. Yeah,
I would put you straight on that, the serum, and it smells. This one's got seaweed.
Yeah, you can tell. That smells so good. Yeah.
And it's sort of, and it's strong. It's sort of, and it doesn't overly dry the skin.
So a couple of drops of a retinol, kind of after a sort of proper double cleanse in the evening.
Yes. Wait, dry your skin.
Yeah.
And
really
then,
kind of get your skin. And if you haven't seen our last Telegraph Beauty School episode 1 from last week, that was kind of all about cleansing.
Yeah.
So once your skin's really kind of prepped and cleansed in the evening, you'd put on a retinol and then that's it? Or would you then mix in?
Just in case of sort of, I like to add the hydration.
Right.
As you know, I always put a bit of hydration back into, you know, that is hydrating, you can, but I prefer because
yeah.
with sort of, as you're sort of, as we're turning over the cells, everything sort of, for me, I feel it's opening up, and I almost pour that hydration back even more.
Right.
So we're just almost being protective over the skin,
Right.
and feeding more hydrating nutrients in, and that's what you want. The retinol is almost opening up those pores, it's starting to treat the skin, and then we pour in more of the hydration and any other actives that we want. And I like to, you know, most of my clients, however young they are, they'll have the R and the H, the Retexturising Serum and the bit of H, and then we finish off with a cream. You don't have to, but I like to finish off with a nice cream while you sleep.
And so if you kind of sort of went from either going from a 10-step skincare routine or a no-step skincare routine, and then, you know, just established a really good vitamin C product in the morning, a really good retinol in the evening, how quickly can you sort of start to notice results on, you know, concerns such as, you know, everything from rosacea to pigmentation or fine lines?
I think in 24 hours you'll probably start seeing sort of that the skin just starts to look lifted. Pigmentation or acne will start drying out. It'll start reducing that inflammation. Skin starts to look brighter, but I always say about 2 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a good sort of where we see that sort of almost fading of some of the pigmentation. But it depends on how severe the pigmentation is. Is it more of a melasma, your history? So, you know, I say a 6-week progress, but I think most people within a week, 2 weeks will say, my skin is brighter.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I can see the change in my skin. But sort of that 2 to 6 week period is key. And then beyond that, if it's really bad pigmentation, obviously it's a much longer process, and you've got to be consistent, really protect your skin, look after your skin, and make sure you're doing the routine as well. And you don't want to over dry, sort of, you know, I think, as you know, with a lot of people with pigmentation, melasma, you sort of quickly reach for what you feel are the stronger products. But as you know, my journey started with a lot of people doing that, and it's like, no, we can't really cope with the peeling, we can't cope with the side effects of it, the inflammation it's causing, and you're all, you know, and you're sitting there scratching your head as a sort of a treatment provider, and trying to look for the best way to treat skin. So, you know, initially that brightness and glow will appear, texture will start improving, but we start looking 6 weeks and beyond as skin starts to repair and looks even healthier.
Amazing. That's great. I mean, I've got still so many questions in my head, but I'm quite conscious that I want to get through some of the questions that we've been sent. So, okay, so we've been asked. There's an interesting question here about oils.
Yeah.
So, how would you, if you kind of used oils such as a squalene or a facial oil within your routine, how would that kind of work with the sort of active treatment serums?
Yeah. See, my preference is no oils.
Yeah.
So, but you can, if I don't know about it, you can. I prefer not to. I say stick to a serum. I find oils just sit on the skin. It's a bit like, I don't know, you have a dirty pan, and if you put an oil on it, you're not really cleaning it.
Right.
I don't, you know, it's sort of, but, you know, if you put more like a retexturizing, more retinol-based sort of ingredient in a serum formula and texture, you're going to clean that sort of dead skin off, let's say that way. I think it's nicer, it's kinder for the skin. A lot of people like this, you know, the smells or the feeling of oils. I'd rather use a cream. So, you know.
So you're not a fan of oils?
I'm not a big fan of oils. I've never found that they've actually treated as I've sort of wanted. It's not to say we don't use certain extracts and botanicals, and they'll come from some of those plants. But I don't like thick oils. I like just the way you saw those textures. They need to be,
they sink straight.
They call them you have to, because that's how you're going to treat it. How else are you going to treat, you know, pigmentation? It's such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to treat.
No.
So I would always advise you, stop using the oils, get the serums down you know, the formulas that you're going to use, the routine, and then if you must massage and you feel like you want to indulge a little bit, and then you can do it. But then just be wary if it clogs your pores, etc. as well.
So, I mean, you know, essentially, that's what serums are. They are treatments. Products, aren't they? So you're almost using them as a means to, you know, create a different effect on the skin.
Yeah. And you're treating them, and there's enough, you know, some people want that glossiness that I always get asked, so can we, you know, and I think oils give you that. So you think, oh, it's working because the skin is just so glossy. But that doesn't mean that it's treating your skin. I'm for treatment. If I'm going to add 3 serums, I want them to work, get to the point,
yeah,
be active, and rather than sort of fussing with so many different, you know, extracts of oils and etc. But, you know, some people like using them, and that's fine. But if you sort of, you know, come to me, I say stop using oils and we're going to put you on the serums.
Right. Okay, that's good to know. We have a, been asked, is there a serum that you can recommend that will complement or help with sort of vitiligo or rosacea in particular?
Rosacea, again, it just depends what stage you're at in terms of how far, if it's early stages. And a lot of good serums should, you know, I think formulation should, you know, when I formulate, I think about rosacea, I think about pigmentation, I think about every skin type that I treat, and that's skin types 1 to 6, everybody, what the skin is going to be experiencing and going through. If I'm treating pigmentation, I think about possible side effects. So, you know, our serums and most serums should be looking after rosacea as well. There's such a huge, again, with pigmentation, you know, it's a huge treatment area, and a lot of people are experiencing it, not aware of it, that they can actually do something about it.
Is there anything to avoid when you're kind of, if you have sort of, you know, active rosacea, for instance?
Like vitamin C is a good one to use to protect in terms of serums. I like Retexturising Serum, retinols to use it as well. Avoid, I mean, you should protect it. You can use a sort of a cream, sort of an SPF. Sun will trigger it. Yes, genetics plays a huge part. Red wine, smoking, so all these things. And if you see signs of little bits of, if it's the thread veins, as I always say, get it treated as well, you know, and use good products that really support and feed it the essential nutrients to keep it at bay, and just sort of keep an eye on it. Don't leave it. With any condition, be it pigmentation, you know, when it creeps up, make sure you're looking after it and treat it. Don't wait for it to get to a stage where it becomes even more expensive to treat, tricky to treat, and more difficult to treat. And with rosacea as well, it's such a sort of huge area. I'd say good vitamin C is essential. Hydration is essential. Ingredients that help reduce inflammation, I think that's crucial. And I like to use Retexturising Serum as well. It doesn't, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you can't use that. You know, clinical studies have shown amazing results without it being too aggressive on the skin as well.
For a retinol, amazing.
Yeah.
And we've had a few questions about sort of sensitive skin. So if someone kind of feels like they've got quite sensitive skin, or, you know, perhaps they've had problems with using active serums in the past, if you were kind of introducing a vitamin C or a retinol, should you kind of almost try once or twice a week and begin that way? Or what's your kind of advice for like sensitive?
I think, again, sensitive skin is, most people you speak to, I would say 80% always say my skin's sensitive. And then you sort of go into how they define sensitivity and what's sensitive. Oh, I had a reaction to this. So I almost, not to say I ignore it, but I guess I feel confident in, you know, certain formulations and products and things like that. So I know it's going to be absolutely fine. And we ease you in. So I would always say start with one
product at a time.
One product at a time, and then slowly add. And again, if formulations are good, you should be just fine. And that word sensitivity, I think we could spend a whole hour on that as well. It's sort of really defining what people think is as sensitive. Everyone seems to define themselves as sensitive as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. I mean, it's it's one of those sort of terms, because I feel like, I suppose if you feel like you react negatively with one product, it kind of
puts you off.
Puts
it's
you
almost
off,
quite sort of
absolutely.
an skin and the face. It's just, you know, you just don't want anything. And people, like with retinols, we've had such, over the years, horror stories and bad experiences that people still are like, oh, I don't want to use retinol.
Totally.
And when I first did our formulation retinol, I actually didn't tell anyone there was retinol in it. When I say anyone, just the people at the clinic. So I wasn't, you know.
Oh, wow.
And I was just handing over
That's
little
interesting.
samples
Yeah.
because you just needed people not to know there was retinol in there, because it's just had such a bad history and journey, people just abusing it. It's a bit like when we speak about derma rollers and everyone's rolling away at home and all the inflammation caused by that. And then they say, no, I don't want you to do any microneedling. And you almost say, look, just wait, just hold on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
just don't do it at home, but be careful how you're doing it, etc. And that was the same with retinol. I think if you're using the right products, it almost helps sensitive skin.
Right.
And we're building the skin and we're making it more resilient, stronger.
Can you use retinol around the eyes? Would
Yes.
you take it up under the eyes as well?
I do. I think if you're not reacting, that first 2-week phase, keep it here when you start, and then slowly just build into it as well.
And
I
does
think it's
that-
the best thing for lines.
Really?
Best thing for lines and just sort of helping with any sun damage. There's a lot of pigmentation I treat around here as well. A lot of my clients have developed pigmentation, the eye area here. And no eye cream alone is going to really sort that out for you. You need a good serum, and one of, a good vitamin C serum is going to help, and a good serum with retinol will help as well.
Will that also help with, because we've also had another question about sort of like puffiness under the eyes. Are there any sort of particular ingredients you should look out for in a serum for that kind of puffiness under the eyes?
I think puffiness is a difficult one to really treat with product. I think there's, lifestyle will go into that. In the mornings, I always say when you're applying the serums, or even at that cleansing stage, I was going to call it the face bath stage, but the cleansing stage, it's almost like I never apply like this.
No.
I always, you don't need to drag, just put some pressure. Pressure onto the skin when you're cleansing. So you start reducing some of that puffiness and that morning, sort of any inflammation there.
Does that help with lymphatic drainage then?
Definitely.
To kind of drain that
Drain away,
fluid?
and that helps with puffiness. And then you can sort of start feeding in the serums there. And that's probably so much better. I think it's so difficult for an ingredient to reduce swelling. Puffiness is a swelling of that area.
Yeah.
So I think that's so, difficult. And then I would feed in, like, if it's the C or sort of the volume serum, to really hydrate, improve the texture in that area. And that just sort of almost disguises some of that puffiness or any discoloration around the eye area as well.
Amazing. And so someone's also asked if they should use a serum for pigmentation in addition to vitamin C, or do you not need to?
It depends. I like vitamin C and retinol, a retexturizing serum for pigmentation. You need them.
Yeah.
One can't do the job alone. The vitamin C will improve, but you need a slightly stronger active that sort of works with it at night.
So a retinol.
So a retinol is needed. Or if you are following, you want to add another serum that really helps in sort of fading and improving the texture and the color of that area. But I think you need a little bit more. But the vitamin C should be your first starting serum for pigmentation and sun damage as well.
And I've kind of, heard a lot recently about, niacinamides cropping up a lot more as an ingredient. Is it something that you should sort of be looking out for in your formulations, or in any products that our audience will be buying, or is it what would a niacinamide do?
I think it's a good one for pigmentation. It's a good one for acneic skin. It's a good B3. I don't overly think, it must have that and it will help with inflammation. My first two go-to is vitamin C and retinol.
Yeah.
We have it in our products. We have it in the retexturizing. It's worked in there because the retexturizing serum or retinol. So how I work that is, so you've got the retinol in there, but then I'm thinking, right, I want to treat acne, I want to treat this skin condition. So then I start working in ingredients into that. And niacinamide and seaweed in there, etc. Arnica's in there. Arnica's in there, it's almost like to sort of really soothe and help with that skin that's a bit more sensitive. But it's not on my radar where I think, oh, you must just have pure niacinamide or an ingredient. I think most formulations should sort of have that in there anyway, and it works well with other ingredients.
Right.
That's the way I sort of like that, but it's not going to, you know, do a lot in terms of if we're treating pigmentation. I think it's good if you're sort of soothing the skin and treating sort of a bit more acneic skin as well. I think it's a nice one.
Amazing. So we've got just a couple of minutes left, and
really?
I can't
Gosh,
believe we've been talking for so long, honestly. But as a sort of recap, I can honestly talk to you all evening, Fatma. We've got so much to cover, but in terms of the kind of real building blocks of a good serum routine and a structure, it's really interesting to kind of almost strip it back down to basics of, you know, a good cleanse in the morning, a vitamin C for everyone.
Everyone. Regardless
of age, ethnicity, male, female. That's really great to know. And you know, perhaps then something else if you need that extra hydration. And then in the evening, a real building block again is the retinol. And again, would you say that's for, you know, male, female, any ethnicity, age range?
Yeah.
A retinol is a good one.
It's an absolute
amazing
must.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to invest, if you're going to buy, if you're going to start your routine, that's where you need to start.
Yeah.
And I promise you, you'll just see such a huge difference in your skin.
Yeah.
Stop everything, you know, and I sort of strip everything back, as you know, in terms of what you use, how you use it, and that should be your go-to. And I sort of stand by, you know, we've always been about that, and I stand by that still. You know, I see so many things sort of come onto the market and ingredients, etc. Nothing beats it.
Yeah.
Nothing beats it. Tried and tested. The clinical studies are there. The trials are there. And I see, you know, such a change in skin when clients are using those two particular ingredients in formulations as well, done well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much, Sonia.
It's been amazing.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been so fabulous. Thank you so much to our audience for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed that session. I can't believe it went so quickly. I mean, that was quick. 60 minutes. Wow. And thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Fatma, for all of your
Thank you, Sonia.
Amazing, insightful
Thank you so much for
advice.
having me. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.